Hey there, it's Chris from Good Roads, and a lot of y'all have been asking me, what's going on with the rope tow? It's kicking my butt. It's kicking my butt. That's what's going on with the rope tow. It's kicking my butt. But I finally got it up and running and pulling me up the hill on my snowboard, so let's talk about it. When we last left off, I had the machine pulling me slowly up the hill on my mountain board. And I mean, slowly. This was less than walking speed, and I'd really prefer it to be going at least a little bit faster. So in order to do that, I had to make some updates to the drivetrain. I swapped out the pulley coming from the gear reduction for a larger one, and then remade my 3D printed pulley at the bull wheel, making it smaller, to give me a quicker gear ratio. Just, you know, it is smaller. Probably not as much smaller as I would like, but we'll see. We'll see, we'll see. Yeah, let's hope so. The pulley and belt setup comes after the main 40-to-1 gearbox, so I'm not super worried about losing torque with this change. It should be a minimal difference. And this is place number 1 where this project kicks my butt. I went through 4 different belts and 3 or 4 different idler wheel setups before I got this part of the drivetrain tensioned properly. Have I mentioned on this channel that I have no idea what I'm doing? Because I have no idea what I'm doing. I did finally get it to work, and working really nicely, but phew, what a hassle. This doesn't really fit anywhere else in the build, but I wanted to show you guys how I've been tensioning my rope. I wound up doing it like 13 times over the course of this project, so I'm getting really good at it. I hook a ratchet strap to the frame of the lift, clamp the rope in place on the bull wheel, and then use a C-clamp to attach the ratchet strap to the other end of the rope. Then I can just crank down on the strap until I've got enough slack to make my connection. So, now my drive bull wheel is running faster, and that should be it, right? Well, yes, but actually, no. My rope is a bunch of sections of shorter rope connected together, and at this point I was just using knots, and those knots were causing issues. But I'm a smart guy, right? What if there was a way to sort of taper the rope to and from the knot so it's not so much of an abrupt change in diameter, and maybe we can even make some handles or grips in the process. And this is what I came up with. These are flexible 3D printed handles that could be zip tied in place on the rope. But after getting them installed, I almost immediately learned that zip ties suck. They just would not stay put without popping apart, and to add insult to, well, insult, I guess, I was still having problems with the rope getting tangled around the bull wheel.
What? What? It worked with the tube. What happened?
So, I added an idler wheel to the frame, and with that in place, my rope only goes about 3/4 of the way around the bull wheel, so it shouldn't have a chance to cross over itself and hopefully won't tangle and bind up my machine. I also added an idler wheel about halfway down the hill just to keep the return line out of the way. I didn't want it hitting me in the face. And in addition to those wheels, we gotta get those zip ties out of the equation. So at first, I tried this lo-fi solution, a combo of electrical and duct tape to make those same tapers, which worked at the top wheel, but in the cold weather, the tape actually got so stiff that it wouldn't flex around my bottom wheel and it caused a tangle. So that's a failure. Okay, well, what about like a crimp connector that doesn't rely on zip ties, maybe has a stronger, more positive mechanical grip? I came up with these things that you can clamp down around the ends of both ropes with bolts and captive nuts. I went through 3 versions of these. The final version is pretty meaty, they got like big beefy teeth inside of them and everything. I thought for sure this was gonna work. And for a minute, they seemed okay. But then I ran into my tangling problem again. And this time, there wasn't a knot or a handle or anything involved at all. It was just the rope getting caught up in itself. Well, at least this time, it wasn't my connections. To fix that, I moved the idler wheel to the other side of the frame, further away from the main wheel, and wrapped the rope a little differently so that it never really gets close to itself. After running it without a load for a while and watching how everything was working, and it seemed to be, it was time to test. Yeah. And at this point, I was cursing. a lot. And I was also just about ready to cry. After a good sit, I was considering everything from dropping $300 on better rope to setting the damn thing on fire. But then I had a thought that gave me just a smidge of hope. Now that I had rerouted the rope in a way that meant it never really got close to itself, maybe the thickness of those knots from way back in the beginning wouldn't matter anymore. So yeah, we're back to the super low tech connections, and that seems to be working. Let's test it. Well, it pulls me up the hill, but through my frustration with this project, my goal has become I want to get laps. I want it to pull me up over and over again. So please, let this work. Finally. Woo! Laps! Let's go! So, am I happy with this thing? Well, no. I mean, I got it to a place where it's doing the thing I want it to do, but it made me miserable in the process. If I were to build another rope tow, and I may do that, here are a few things that I might do differently. Spend money and get good, long, spliceable rope that's thick enough to not tangle itself. And that's because this whole connection issue was a nightmare. A splice is really the joint you want, both for the smoothness of the rope going over the wheel and for the strength of the rope pulling you up the hill. Next time. Thing number 2. Forget the treadmill motor. The whole idea of constant torque at variable speed is really interesting, but the complexities that introduced in the system, both in the drivetrain and in the electronic components as far as speed control goes, really, it just ended up overly complicated. I think next time I'd probably just run a couple of 24-volt electric wheelchair motors with a bog standard DC speed controller, and that would reduce both the complexity of the build of my machine and the complexity of the machine itself by probably about half. It'd also be easier to maintain. Number 3. Yeah, do a much more simple fabrication of my frame. The bottom of my rope tow is just a pipe stuck in the ground. The top probably could be too. Maybe with like a plate weld to do it. As far as my first real welding fabrication project goes, the object of the frame that I built is nice. I like it a lot. But again, it could have been done a lot easier. So that's what I'll be doing next time. And 4, bigger bull wheels and some kind of tensioning mechanism. Bigger bull wheels to have more surface area and not have to worry about things tangling, and a tensioning mechanism so that maybe I don't have to constantly be retensioning the rope with ratchet straps every time I want to adjust something. Because like I said, I got good at that, but to do it over and over and over again, phew, it's a bit much. Okay, so I got a lot of complaints. I got a lot of sadness and bitterness and bad feelings. But are there upsides? Of course. It's strong enough to pull me up the hill, and it even runs a little bit faster than walking speed, which means that I can get many laps in. More laps than I would be able to get in if I was walking myself up the hill. For mountain boarding, this is just kind of a cool tool. It saves you from hiking up the hill. But for snowboarding, for me, the most irritating part of a backyard session is constantly having to unstrap and strap in your bindings. And this means you can strap in once, and get your laps in, and just keep going. All of the energy that you would spend bending over, unstrapping, climbing up the hill, strapping back in, all the energy that you would normally go into that can now go into practice and riding. And your boy needs practice, so that's good. So, just one last kick in the pants. I got the machine up and running yesterday, and today it is raining. East Coast gonna East Coast. The rain is eventually supposed to turn to snow, so hopefully we'll get some coverage. I'll be able to get some laps in and show this thing off. couple of people have been asking for some feature builds, and this is a pretty slow hill, so that might be a good thing to do. I'm not really a rail guy, but maybe it's time to learn. So that's gonna be it for this week because my soul needs some time to recover. If you got any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. If you wanna see more awesome DIY board sport builds, just go ahead and subscribe. Huge shout out, as always, to my supporters over on Patreon. I cannot tell you how many stupid trips I took to the stupid hardware store to buy stupid nuts and bolts, stupid rope for this stupid rotope that I'm sure eventually I will like it. What was I talking about? Right. And I would not have been able to afford all of that without their help. I could not have done this project without them. So first of all, huge thank you guys. It really means a lot. And second of all, if you'd like to support, there's a link down in the description below. With that, I love you guys. I love having you along for the ride. So until next time, I will see you soon.